Hello and welcome. Today we're going to talk about what daily life was like in the world's first big city. Nowadays, we tend to take many aspects of our daily life for granted. When we want to go somewhere, we can simply drive to that place. If we need food, we can go to a supermarket and buy enough food for weeks. And when we feel bored, we can watch an endless amount of content on our smartphones. But what was life like before the development of all the technology that surrounds us nowadays? Today, we're going to look at what daily life was like 5,000 years ago in the world's first big city, Uruk. Uruk was located between the rivers Tigris and Euphrates in an area known as Mesopotamia, and is considered to be the world's first big city, with monumental buildings and a population of over 50,000 people. Their society, much like any other, had social hierarchies, political structures, specialized occupations, their own religion, literature, and writing. Their cuneiform writing system, which is the earliest form of writing in the world, is what allows us to know so much about their daily lives. Initially, around 3000 years BCE, their writing system was developed in order to keep track of their assets and trades. But around 1,000 years later, they had developed it to a point where they could write literature, such as the famous Epic of Gilgamesh, considered to be the earliest known work of literature. So what did their city actually look like? The city of Uruk was divided into two districts, the older Anu district and the newer Yana district, both named after local deities. The most notable buildings you would find in Uruk were the famous ziggurats. These were magnificent buildings that were used as temples to honor their gods and goddesses. When it came to their daily routine, though, what people did depended on their social class. Uruk, like any other civilization, had its own social hierarchy. Above everyone in this hierarchy was the king. Beneath him, the upper class included the nobility, priests and priestesses, scribes, private tutors, and other high-ranking positions. These people enjoyed a fairly comfortable life and were able to send their sons to school, where they would mainly learn how to write. Even though women had almost the same rights as men, they weren't allowed to attend schools. The lower class consisted of farmers, artists, musicians, construction workers, carpenters, bakers, butchers, fishermen, and brewers, among other trades. Mostly women held lower class jobs. The first brewers, tavern keepers, doctors, and dentists, for example, were women. But when some of these positions were shown to be more lucrative, they were taken over by men. There was, however, social mobility in Uruk. Lastly, there were the slaves. They were people captured in war, people who sold themselves or were sold by a family member into slavery to pay off a debt or as punishment for a crime. Their jobs would depend on their knowledge and skills, and eventually they could buy their freedom. In general, both men and women worked. In upper-class families, sons would be sent to school, while daughters stayed at home learning domestic affairs. In lower-class families, sons would follow their dad to work and learn his trade, while daughters would follow their mother and learn her trade. In their free time, children would play with toys that are familiar to most of us nowadays. These included slingshots, boomerangs, dolls, balls, and hoops. They would also play board games in their families, a popular one being an ancient version of backgammon. Sports were also present in their society. In the lower class, boxing and wrestling were the most popular sports, while in the upper class it was hunting. Not too different from a number of civilizations throughout history. Another form of entertainment was telling stories or playing music, which they typically did after having dinner. Overall, the daily lives of the people who lived in Uruk at around 5,000 years ago was not too different from the daily routine of most people nowadays. Just like us, they had to go to work, practice sports, play games in their free time, and would entertain each other by telling stories. And even though we have improved in a number of aspects since then, most notably, slavery isn't legal anymore, some of the same social and gender inequality that was present in the beginning of civilization is still seen nowadays. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.